It's your friendly neighborhood laser lady, and today I'm going to show you how to take your laser cut acrylic projects to the next dimension. I know it might be a little scary getting into heat shaping, things melt, it's hot, but it is going to greatly differentiate your products from your competitors. Plus, you get to charge more for it. And of course, we're here for profit. So let's say goodbye to those pesky fingerprints and turn up the heat. Let's get started.
All right, safety first. Here are the supplies needed to safely transform our laser cut acrylic projects into 3D masterpieces. I will be using my stovetop as my heat-safe base, and on top of that, I like to use this silicone baking mat. When we are using fast, hot air to blow things around, this tends to keep the little bits in place and can handle the heat. Of course, we need a nice, cheap heat gun. Now, don't go using this as a hair dryer. You will melt all your hair and skin off. This one was only about $20 on Amazon and has two modes, 750 degrees Fahrenheit for the low setting and 1000 degrees for the high. We'll also need some tools to shape our pieces. The less we use our hands directly on heated up acrylic, the safer we are. I'm sure you are way smart enough to know that extreme heat is dangerous for our silly, weak human skin. There are heat-safe gloves made for this, but of course, I don't have any. So I'm just going to use these regular cheap winter gloves as a bit of a barrier, but go for those good gloves. They're only a few bucks. I also like to use an oven mitt when I'm actually going to need to use my hands for shaping, and we'll see that a bit later. Now here's the recap. Fire is dangerous. Don't set your house on fire. Don't set yourself on fire. Keep pets and kids away. Have water nearby. Have ventilation in your workspace. Fire is bad. Read the instructions of your heat gun and be safe. Now that I'm confident you won't sue me, let's get to project number 1, glitter acrylic party streamer. Just about any type of laser-safe acrylic can be shaped with heat. Acrylics that don't work include ones with an added layer like an iridescent acrylic or a mirrored acrylic. For this intro project, I am going to use glitter-infused acrylic, one of my favorites. This fun spiral uses very little material and will be transformed into something quite magical. To get started, I glove up my flipping hand. You could absolutely use tongs to flip things over for a no-hands approach. Now I'm going to turn on that heat gun to the low 750 degrees setting. Going pretty slow, I just go around and around, back and forth, directing the heat onto the spiral about 2 inches above it. You don't want to hold it in one spot for too long or too closely, or you risk warping that spot. Every so often, I'll flip it over. Once you can start to see the acrylic moving around like a thick bologna or a rubbery sheet, I love bologna by the way, it is ready to change shape. But before we do that, make sure you turn off your heat gun. Using both my pliers, I grab both the edge and the middle tip and start to pull it apart. The skinny nature of this shape helps to cool it faster, making it re-solidify quickly. You will feel it harden, and beware, if it feels like it's still able to be shaped, but getting harder by the second, don't force it. You can break and tear heated acrylic pretty easily. Now, if you don't like the shape it happened to harden into, just hit it again with that heat gun. You'll see it will want to go back into its original form. Do the slow and steady process again and give it another go. If you like the look and want to harden it back up again, I like to wave it around in the air or to blow on it to get some cool air on there to make it harden back up. There are other ways, and we'll get into that in the coming up projects. This is looking pretty good to me, so let's finish it up. I had also made a golden star to hang this off of there, and now we're ready to party. So now that we know the basics, let's go to the next lesson and learn about molds. Things are going to start moving a lot faster now, especially with this next project where we use molds. I got this super fancy plaid acrylic from Craft Closet, and of course I'll have links below with a discount code for you. The masking tape on here is pretty hard to get off, so of course I whip out my tried and true Gorilla duct tape. However, using the heat gun on this masking paper will also loosen the adhesive and make it easier to get off. Just try not to burn it. The pieces that are going to be the middle of the flowers are engraved, and to make those pop out a little, I painted in the engravings with some paint pens. Just wait for the big reveal. I just need to get this curious cat out of the way, safety first of course, and then we can get back to it. This pink flower has one shiny side and one matte side, and for materials like this, just make sure you have the front facing side where you need it once it's heated up. Now for the mold, I'm going to use this little plastic bowl. You can use anything that can take on a little bit of heat. A ceramic bowl would do well, a mug, a plant pot, things like that. You can maybe even make your own mold. Once the piece is fully heated, I am going to try to center this thing in the bowl. Now it's pretty hot to hold in there. This is where those heat-safe gloves would come in handy. Unfortunately, I don't have them. So an oven mitt would work well, or even a rolled up towel would come in handy. Once you've given enough time to cool down, you will see it's a pretty shape now. Molds are great when you want to make many things with the same outcome. If you are selling these online, for instance, you will want all your products to match your pictures, of course. Now that both my flowers are shaped, let me show you the final result. After I take off the masking of those little flower middles, I just glue them on there with some clear Gorilla Grip contact adhesive. It's like 𝗚𝗵𝗲𝗆. I use the same stuff for the magnets on the back. After they dry, they are ready to make your fridge or any metal surface cute as all get out. These would make great gifts for coworkers, or make them in team colors for a sports team of some sort, or flower admirers like me. In this next example, I want to show you what it's like if your piece is too big, or too long in this case, to shape all at once. Depending on your project, it might need to be worked over time. I made these long bloopy pieces to be rolled into a succulent plant-like shape, hopefully. The thing is, once I get it rolled up a little bit, the acrylic is so thin, it starts to solidify before I'm even done rolling it up. Using my handy pliers to keep the rolled bit in place, I then have to carefully use the heat gun on the remaining bits. Whatever tools you use, make sure they are safe for high temperatures. The plastic handles on these pliers help to keep the heat from traveling down to my meat-covered fingers. To get this hot plastic roll out of my hands as quickly as possible, I use that little bowl from earlier, which is now filled with ice water to dunk my piece into. Once I have everything rolled up and cooled down, I glued them to a base for a little succulent decoration. Now, I'm not super in love with how it turned out, but that's okay. Not every idea works out like we hoped. At least we learned something, and that something is going to help us out in this next project. Surely you can tell what I am making with this cool rectangular shape. Okay, maybe not yet. For this project, we need a dowel. Instead of a mold, we are going to use this to help us with our shaping. Larger pieces like this can take some time to get hot enough to bend, which also means it will take longer to cool. Once I finally get it to that delicious bologna-like texture, it is time to wrap it around this dowel. I use an oven mitt so I can spare my hands a little bit. I still like my skin after all, I suppose. The next part we shape will be molded around this middle bit of my sink. Luckily, being in the sink and all, we can use some of the cool water to solidify it almost instantly. Now, do you know what it is yet? Yep, it's a cute little sponge holder. Using water for big things like this really helps save your hands from the ouchy heat, as well as little things like these tiny bat earrings. Being so small, this heat mat really helps these little bats from blowing away. In no time, they are ready to shape. Using my pliers to steady the little bat bodies, I bend the wings forward a little bit and dunk them in some cold water. If you needed to make a lot of these, you can make quick work with a system that acclimates to your project. Keeping your tools nearby, along with methods of cooling, really streamline possible increased profits while saving your skin from melting off. I'd love to know if you have ever tried heat shaping before, or what you think about the most delicious sandwich mystery meat called bologna. The more you challenge yourself with your creativity, the more amazing products you will create to impress your customers with. If you'd like to learn more about mastering laser materials, check out this playlist. Happy crafting!